Later in this video, I'm going to tell you guys how you can win a brand new 2024 Volvo XC40 Recharge on January 31st, so stay tuned for that. This is the Xpeng G9 all-wheel drive performance, and this is truly guys, the first time here on the channel I can from the bottom of my heart recommend you guys to go out and buy a Chinese car, because this Xpeng G9 all-wheel drive performance is one of the biggest surprises I've had in the past few years of testing electric cars. I actually really like this car, and it has not a lot of things that annoy me. So in today's video, I'm going to tell you guys why you may just want to go out and buy this Xpeng G9. I actually really like the exterior design of the Xpeng G9. Size-wise, this is about the same as an Audi Q8 e-tron, so about the same length, width and height, and I actually think it looks better, more modern and sleeker than the Audi Q8 e-tron. Granted, this is, a few years newer, but the Audi Q8 e-tron for the facelift actually got improved exterior styling in my opinion, and I've owned an Audi Q8 e-tron pre-facelift, so it is a car I actually do like. I just think this looks more modern and sleeker and attractive. I like the D pillar, which gives a little bit of, Mercedes-esque vibe, and then I like, the front light bar and also the rear light bar. It's just a really nice design, clean lines, nice aesthetics, and this car actually being on smallish 19-inch wheels actually looks really nice. I don't think these wheels look small at all. So that's really nice to see in 2024 that we can have a large-ish, it's not EV9 large, but it is quite large compared to most electric cars on the market and EVs. It's nice to see that we can have a large electric SUV with smallish wheels. So I'll commend Xpeng for managing to pull off that great design there. As much as I like the exterior design of this G9, it's inside this cabin where it truly impresses me. The level of quality and detail and material choices in here at this price point is truly impressive. Granted, this car does have the upgraded Napa leather package, which also includes a DIN audio sound system, but this car, spec'd this way, fully spec'd, is only a little bit more expensive than a really nice spec'd Audi Q4 e-tron or a fully spec'd Skoda Enyaq or a fully spec'd Kia EV6 GT. And this car, this interior is on a completely different level compared to those cars. This is comparable in size here and also in quality and fit and finish to an Audi Q8 e-tron, and this car is a lot cheaper than that car once you start speccing them out. So you have a really nice design of the dashboard here. I'm going to do a separate section in this video about the infotainment system, but you have a 10.25-inch driver's display, and then you have this dual screen setup here with 15-inch screens, and I just think it looks clean and nice. This has, as I said, the upgraded Napa leather package with the DIN audio sound system. I'm going to do a separate video on the DIN audio sound system because this is the first time in a Chinese car I think the sound system truly lives up to the specs and how good it's supposed to be. It's a very good sound system. So this color of the interior, I'm going to just say it right away, I'm a sucker for a light colored or warm colored leather interior. I think the color choice in here is just spot on. It just gives this car an ambiance and a sense of luxury that you don't find in many other cars at this price point. This is the same color of Napa leather interior I had in my first Volvo XC90, which I started this channel on. So it may be a little bit nostalgia, but I'm a huge fan of these brown leathers. You can also have it in a Range Rover or in a Ferrari. So overall, interior quality, fit and finish, switchgear, just the feeling of luxuriness is impressive in here. I recently started using an app called Horde, which helps me get a better overview of my finances. It allows me to add different bank accounts to see my spending, even if these bank accounts are from different banks. This way I can see how much I spend every month. If I buy clothes or foods or my subscription services, it helps me with a total overview. One of the nice things about this app is that it helps me keep an eye on my debt, alerting me before interest rates on my credit card starts to occur so I avoid extra charges. What's extra motivating is that Hoida rewards you for being financially smart. You can earn points from various activities like inviting friends, participating in quizzes, or paying down your debt. The points you earn can then be spent on the app's store and buy things like a new iPhone, a PlayStation 5, and other exciting products. Currently, they have a promotion where you can win a brand new 2024 Volvo XC40 Recharge if you refer 3 friends. This car is being given away on January 31st. If you want to try the app for yourself to get a better overview of your finances and spending, and also be in the running for winning a brand new Volvo XC40, which in of itself is a reason to just download and try the app because it is totally free, use the referral code LRIFA to get 500 bonus starting points. But be quick because they're giving away this car on January 31st, and this time you're only eligible if you live in Norway, but who knows, in the future they may have prices for other residents in other countries as well. So a huge thanks to Hoida for sponsoring today's video. The G9 is equipped with this 2-spoke steering wheel, which is okay. It's not, the most inspiring design. It looks kind of bland, but it works fine. It has like this open spoke design here at the bottom, so it's really nice to rest my hand there. I like it, so I don't mind it, but it's nothing exciting. Nice leathers, nice materials, though this here can get a little bit slippery when my hands are warm, but the heater in the steering wheel works pretty nice, like it warms the whole steering wheel. In some cars, especially with, this type of plastic or chrome trim, it doesn't heat it, and that, just makes it feel really cold to the warm leather here in winter. So it's a nice steering wheel, works nice, materials are pretty decent. What's a little bit different from this car than other cars is that this scroll wheel here is your adaptive cruise control when it is activated. But when it's not activated, when you're not using it, it actually adjusts the cabin temperature. And I think they've done that because when you go into the app menu here, you can go into, for example, YouTube, and then you can go into full screen mode. And if you want to, adjust the temperature, you can easily do it here instead of going out of the menu because there are no physical buttons there. So I think that's the reason they did it. It's okay. A little bit confusing at first. I was like, how do I adjust the adaptive cruise control? Because I thought this was just the cabin temperature. But once you engage adaptive cruise control, this actually is your temperature, and no, this is your speed, and this is your distance. On the right side, traditional, audio buttons, volume up and down, and then skip forwards and backwards. And then this is interesting. So these stocks here, nice traditional stocks, but these are identical to what you find in a Mercedes EQC. And also the gear selector. So that is pretty funny. And I asked the guy from Xpeng, and I'm like, oh, do Xpeng do some kind of, cooperation, some kind of partnership with Mercedes? Are these Mercedes parts? And he's like, no, they are not Mercedes parts. So they just copied them 1-to-1. You have switches down here on the door, window switches, but you don't have mirror control switches. That seems to be a Chinese thing where they don't want you to have a toggle down here and buttons to adjust your mirrors. You have to do that in the menu. And also there's no adjustment for the steering wheel on the column. You also have to do that in a menu. So the driver display here is 10.25 inch. It's really nice, high quality, but it's a little bit lacking in functionality, and there's no customization at all. When you're driving, you'll have a view of the car with the lanes and other traffics like you do in a Tesla Model S or Tesla Model 3. It works fine, but I wish I could, have map view here when I'm using this for other things. Also, you have your trip computer here on the left side, which you cannot reset. So you can't reset the trip. If you've seen my range test or, the trip I did from Oslo to Stavanger, I have to take notes every time I hop out of the car because it doesn't give you a trip. It just gives you, it resets every time you get in and out of the car. That's really annoying. But hopefully that will come as a fix. And also another thing I want to mention, the battery indicator here only shows kilometers. This is in dynamic, so this is based on consumption. You can have it based on WLTP if you want, but this is based on dynamic real-world consumption. But it doesn't have a percentage readout, which is really weird. So hopefully they will, fix that with an update in the future. Then we have these screens here, two 15-inch screens, and this has like a viewing angle where from the driver seat you can't see what's going on there. So your passenger can watch YouTube or Netflix, and that won't obstruct the driver, which is pretty nice. So this just has, basic media functions, and this is your main infotainment system. So as I said here, you have no physical control for HVAC, and the gear selector is here on the driver right side of the steering wheel column, and that means you don't have a lot of buttons. You basically have no buttons. Yesterday we had crazy weather driving here to Stavanger, and I struggled. When your brain is preoccupied with like just tackling the weather and concentrating on driving, I wanted to put on my hazards because the visibility was so bad. I'm like, where are the hazards? I was looking here, I was looking here, I was looking here, and then just today, like after a day after, I'm like, oh, they're here. Which, of course, if you own this car and just, wasn't hopping into a new car every week like I do, you probably would have, seen that or known that. But that's just something to note, is that the hazards are up there on the roof. You also have like a sunglass compartment here, which is not something you see a lot in modern cars. So that is really nice. I actually like that. So this screen here, truly, this car is inspired by Tesla. These engineers at Xpeng have copied a lot of Tesla's things, like the stocks basically. You could argue that these aren't actually from a Mercedes, that these are from a Tesla, and also this is from a Tesla, and the way this works. So you have your shortcuts here. So you have your home, you have your vehicle, you have like parking, and then you have climate here, and then you have your audio, phone, and then you have your apps down there. Everything is logically laid out, but again, I wish there were just more shortcuts. I wish the temperature control is here on the left panel, but there is enough real estate here to dedicate the bottom section here to shortcuts, because not everything is within easy reach. Like if I want to do my heated seats, I go in here. It's just one button, but like, where are the heated steering wheel controls? Why isn't that in the same menu? You have to go back, and then you have it here. Like, shouldn't that be in the same place? Like, if you press this button, you would have, there's enough real estate to do like HVAC here, and then your seats over there. There's better ways to do it. Also, if you saw my trip from Oslo to Stavanger, I'm going to reference that a lot here because I got to use this infotainment system on route, like route planning. And what it doesn't have is it doesn't put in a charger for it doesn't put in a charger for you. You have to navigate to a charger yourself, and it won't also tell you how much battery you will arrive with, because the car doesn't even have a readout for battery percentage. It will tell you how many kilometers you will arrive with, which you have to convert in your head, which is just really weird. But it doesn't have on route like charger planner, so it won't put a charger in for you. And also the charging information in the charging map here is so outdated that I couldn't find half of the chargers. So what I had to do yesterday on route, I had to find other chargers that were in the vicinity of the ones I wanted to use, because this car actually has battery preconditioning on route. It has it manually. If we go into, so there are a few shortcuts, as I said, up here. But having everything down here would have been nice. But you have, if you want to go into the driver monitoring system, which is this sensor here, which will just bing and bong at you every time you don't look at a road. You can turn that on and off there. And also you have like the speed limit warning indicator sound is here also. But I just wish everything was in one place. Like, why are these two things in different places? Why is the heated steering wheel and heated seats in different places? But other than that, it works nice. Spotify is really nice. YouTube is really nice with the app here, and everything just looks crisp and clear. Like, the screen is of really high quality. You want to exit, you can press this button here, or you can do it on screen. And also built-in Spotify. Yeah, the infotainment system, pretty nice. Driver ergonomics are pretty decent, but I just wish, either we had dedicated HVAC buttons, or we had like a dedicated, there's enough real estate. This is 15 inches. There's enough real estate here to give us dedicated HVAC buttons somewhere on the screen for all of your shortcuts. But as it works now, it's pretty okay. But if you want to do some driver settings or driver modes, you have to go into like over here, and then like it's buried in menus. I just wish there were more like shortcuts for quick access. This being the G9 all-wheel drive performance, obviously it has all-wheel drive, so dual electric motors and also a whole bunch of performance. 551 horsepower, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.9 seconds, so it is no slouch at all. Usable battery capacity of 93.1 kilowatt hours on an 800 volt architecture with a peak charging speed of 300 to 350 kilowatts. And the reason I say it that way is because the official numbers is 300 kilowatts, but journalists here in Norway and other places have actually reached peak charging speeds of close to 350 kilowatts. So I'm going to put all the specs on the screen for you guys now, WLTP and all of the juicy stuff. So this car is on 4-quarter air suspension, so you can lower the car, you can raise the car, and in general it is pretty nice to drive. There are a few quirks here because this is a Chinese car. It wouldn't be a Chinese car without a little bit of weirdness. First off, it bings and bongs at you for everything. It's just annoying, but you can turn off most of it, and as I showed you guys, most of it is like with nice and easy accessible shortcuts. So there's suspension. It drives nicely. It is comfortable, especially being on, you know, kind of smallish 18-inch wheels. It is nice and compliant, but I wish there was just a little bit more softness and suppleness in the initial impact, like over speed bump here, in the dampening, and also just a little bit more waft in the air springs, just a little bit more motion to give it a little bit more of that float, because in my opinion that suits a car like this better. This is a luxury car, right? It's not a sporty car. But talking about sport, the suspension setup is set up a little bit sporty. It's set up closer to an Audi Q8 e-tron with sport suspension than it is to, for example, a Mercedes EQC on traditional steel springs. There's a few weirdnesses. As I said, it is a Chinese car, so it wouldn't be weird without a few quirks. The drive modes, which is Eco, Standard, Sport, and Off-Road, are pretty basic, right? But the softest suspension setting is in Eco mode, while in most cars it's either in Comfort or Standard, which is just really weird. So Eco mode, it's the most compliant and the softest, but the throttle response is just so slow and the car gives you no power like immediately. So driving on anything other than like open vast of country roads, it really isn't usable. Like driving here around here in the Stavanger area in the snow, Eco mode is just completely useless. But the sporty suspension setup, you know, means it also feels really light on its feet. It's eager to change direction. This is rear drive bias, so you know you feel that once you go on the throttle, it wants to step out the rear end. But it does it in a way, at least on these, you know, icy, snowy roads, that makes it feel a little bit nervous and not necessarily sporty, because it's not like in my Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo, which is my daily car, where it lets you play. It gives you a little bit of slip here, just, you know, slips, and then it catches it right away with the ESP, which is the safe way to do it. But I just, you know, wish there was just a little bit more play in the way it was set up, because either like just be really buttoned down where it just doesn't slip at all, or give me a little bit of play. Like this, just the worst of both. So I really don't like it. You can turn off the ESP, but once you go over a certain speed, it auto engages. So it's not a playful vehicle, and that's why I would prefer a little bit softer setup. But I'm just nitpicking. It's really quiet. It's really comfortable. On the motorway, it's quiet. There's a lot of room and space in here. These cabin insulation, even though this isn't you know, equipped with any double glazed windows, which I don't think you can even get, it's super quiet. In my opinion, a lot of, you know, the double isolated windows is just gimmicky, because like most of the like road noise comes actually through the suspension and the underfloor and not the windows. Like that doesn't seem to be the weakness on most cars. I want to talk about steering a little bit. So this G9 actually has really nice steering. It feels natural, it's nicely weighted, and the way it's calibrated, it just feels normal. It's nice to drive this car because of the nice steering. It's not as natural or as detailed or as textured as my Porsche Taycan, which just is amazing, especially hopping out of that EV9 last week. I'm like, oh, this is super nice steering. It's not that good, but it's much closer to my Porsche. and to any German car than that EV9. That EV9 just had weird steering. So I talked about that in a video which was titled 9 Things I Hate About the EV9, and steering was one of the things. I like that car, I love that car, it's an amazing car, but steering was just weird. It just felt video gaming, and even though you had this much lock or this much lock or this much lock, like the resistance was exactly the same and there was no feel at all. So two things to distinguish here is resistance and feel. So resistance is just the weight, like the resistance you get moving the wheel. And this is what people talk about heavy steering, especially in an EV9. And that doesn't give you weight, it just gives you resistance. It doesn't give you anything more. The steering weight is once you start loading up the wheels, is that resistance. And that is there, either there is power assistance or not. This is just the steering feel without the power assistance. Power assistance today is done by electric motors. In the past, we had no assistance, and then we had like decades of hydraulically power assisted steering, which got really good after decades of fine tuning. Electrically power assisted steering, or EPAS, which came to market like 10-12 years ago, has gotten a lot better in those years. And this is a way to like isolate steering. Like all of these assistance systems isolates the actual underlying steering feel. And in the EV9, I just think that like the steering feel in general, like the setup, was not prioritized for feel or control. And when you add electrically power assisted servos on top of that, it just completely disappears. This here, I just think like the geometry of the suspension, the steering setup, the hardware here is just so much better. Because first off, I've set the steering to its lightest, which just gives it this nice delicacy that fits the car. Like this is a luxury car, it's just easy to turn, and it doesn't take away any of the feel. It doesn't take any way of, the way it, we're gonna go here. The way the steering weights up, because what you want is that steering that weights up naturally. Because what I talk about when weighting up is that when you go into a turn, all the weight and the mass of the car will load onto the outside wheels. And if you feel that in the steering, where the steering tightens up, where you have more resistance, which is the feel in that sense, the car is communicating to you that this is happening. Like you have a lot of mass that's moving this way, and this is the mass of the car. It's not good to mask all the mass, right? But with these modern cars, as heavy as they are, it's nice to mask a lot of that weight. But you don't want to mask all, because then you lose any feel. So this car weights up naturally, like once the outside wheels load up, you feel it in the steering, and also once you tighten the turn, you get more resistance. That EV9 did none of that, like no feel at all. And what the EV9 did is, like when you unload, like when you straighten out the steering, it felt the same. This lightens up, like naturally feeling steering lightens up once that guy has to yield for me, but he's not doing that, but he's driving a big truck and it is snowy outside. So natural steering unloads, lightens once you unload the wheels and start straightening up. So this just feels natural. It just feels nice. I really like the steering of this car. So I just wanted to touch upon that, because like I try to talk more about steering feel than other people, because I think it is a very important aspect of how the car feels when driving. If you've seen the whole video up until now, or if you saw the intro, heck, if you even saw the thumbnail, you know that I actually really like this car. I think this is a great car. This is a car I can highly recommend to friends, to family, or to any of you guys. It's the best, and by far the best Chinese car I've ever driven. And that is because it doesn't excel necessarily in one or the other place, though it is very good in some places and not so good in other places. It's just the overall experience here is just generally good. And that means, like, yes, it will bing at you. Yes, you have to run the HVAC system a little bit hotter than in other cars. And maybe, like, it could have better, like, defrosting for winter conditions. It can have, like, heated wiper blades. But all of those things is easy to ignore when the overall experience is as good as it is. It looks good on the outside. It's spectacularly awesome here on the inside for this price point. I mean, this is a nice interior. Like, when I think about the price of this car, like fully spec'd in Norway, a little bit more than 700,000 kroners. And then I like feel the leathers and the materials, and I just look at what the cabin looks like. I'm like, yeah, I'm sold. I'm sold. In many instances, this is nicer and better built than a Mercedes EQC, an Audi Q8 e-tron, a Mercedes EQE SUV on the inside, just at a highly discounted price compared to most of those. I mean, this is comparably priced to a Mercedes EQC, but you're getting so much more here. It's a much bigger car. The charging speed here is ridiculous compared to that. The battery pack size, I mean, yeah, it's hard to fault this car. And like, yes, the infotainment system could be a little bit more intuitive. Yes, I've experienced phantom braking with the, adaptive cruise control, a little bit here and there, but I mean, the sound system is pretty good. The experience is pretty good. It drives nice. It has really nice steering. I mean, yeah, like the few faults and issues it has is so easy to live with when you think about the alternatives to this car. Would I buy it with my own money at this price point? I actually think so. I actually think if I was to spend between 650,000 kroners or 750,000 kroners, this is a no-brainer. I would get this car. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys later and goodbye.